Okay, good evening. So I am so pleased to get to moderate the panel tonight. I get to introduce three fantastic, fierce feminist women. Starting with Stacey Ann Berry. She's the president of Bstellar Group, a government relations and professional development firm based in Toronto. Stacey is passionate about community engagement and youth development and currently serves as the chapter president for Blacks in Technology Foundation. She has a master's degree in public policy, administration, and law, as well as an honors BA in history and law and society, a diploma in court and tribunal administration, a certificate in alternate dispute resolution. Stacey has been recognized as one of the 100 accomplished Black Canadian women, as well as Canada's 100 Black women to watch by the Canadian International Black Women of Excellence. Welcome, Stacey. Denise Hampden is the Regional Educational Officer from Public Service Alliance of Canada. Denise works educating members of labor movement. Her lived experience and advocacy are uncompromisingly inclusive. I learn from her and take what knowledge forward with me. Her perspective helps me know how things were, how we can have made things better, and how we can yet change the world for the better. Welcome, Denise. Aditi Baseo. Aditi is an advocate, inventor, a passion-driven change maker, and in 2018, she founded Champions of Change of Canada, an organization that amplifies youth voices as key leaders on the journey to empower gender equality. She is studying both engineering and business at Western, while also working as a youth engagement program lead at Pillar Not-for-Profit. Welcome, Aditi. Oh yes, and the next Prime Minister of Canada. Maybe not the next, but shortly. Yes. So we're going to have a bit of a conversation. It's going to be kind of relaxed. We're going to ask three questions. They're going to answer it, and then maybe interject if they, have some aha moments or some thoughts. So the first question is, how did you get here? Who or what inspired you?
Go ahead.
I can start, yeah. Yes. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Perfect. So hi everyone, my name is Aditi Baseo. I am from London, Ontario. I've lived there my entire life. I'm also the daughter of two immigrants who moved here without knowing anything about the country. They moved from Trinidad and Tobago. And so growing up, I was often the only person of color in my community, in my school. I wasn't surrounded by people who looked like me, who reflected my attitudes, my thoughts, my lived experience. And so I often felt that as a child, I was just reflecting what I saw in others as a means to fit in. And so as I grew up, I learned and I came into myself a little bit more. And so that's something that really inspired me to start the work that I do, to get involved with gender equality, to empower those around me, to work with females in my life, especially those who have lived experience similar to my own. When I started high school, I also went through a really pivotal moment in my life to have the support that I needed to get through that moment. I really didn't think I was going to start crying or tearing up. I was lucky enough to have the support I needed to get through that moment and to move on from it and to grow and develop and learn and recover ultimately. And so that's what inspired me to do the work that I do, to start fundraising, to advocate, and to work with other young women who might be going through the same thing.
Thank you so much for sharing. Denise?
I hate when I have to follow somebody who lifts me that way. It means that I have to raise my game, and I have to be better than I thought I was going to be. I am the child of ancestors from Sebaganagati First Nation, which you would probably know as Shubenacadie First Nation in Nova Scotia, and the child of those who came to Africville as part of the Black Loyalist group in Nova Scotia. When I was 18 years old, I come from a family of hugely talented people. If you play only one instrument, you are not trying hard enough. My great aunt would walk to music lessons many, many miles once a week. And I was fortunate enough to be in Ottawa a couple of weeks ago and saw her portrait hanging in the National Gallery, taken by Yusuf Karsh. I know, it is remarkable. However, it means that I have big shoes to fill. And so I thought I was going to be a doctor. Didn't work out. On dissection day, I thought, no. Can't do it. And it's not even the blood, it's the cutting. Anyway, couldn't do it. So I took a job out of university, and my very first major job, I had several other jobs, the president of the union there, she would pester me and tell me, Denise, you're really good, you have to come with me. And I said, I don't think I can do that. I really don't. And she insisted. And she saw something in me that led me to this place 35 years later as a leader in my union, as a member of the staff of a union, doing major things in my union, in the labor movement, in the world of social justice around the country. Because she hounded me until I finally said yes. She saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. And subsequent to that, and I should say the first thing that she had me do was attend a leadership conference for Indigenous workers and workers of color, which is remarkable because typically what would happen is the person who you are mentoring, you would send them to, I don't know, some other kind of gathering, where in the union movement it would be typically male and typically white. And she didn't do that. She said, no, I want you to go to this thing. And interestingly enough, when she did, a very good friend of both Danny and mine tapped me on the shoulder in the line at lunch. It's the first union thing I've ever been to. And he said, I need you to come and be in the classroom. And I've been in the classroom ever since then. And the people who have pulled me, sometimes, unwillingly, begrudgingly, I went, have been people who knew that in order to build a better world, that they had to bring people who they hadn't been seeing before. The rooms that they were in, the bargaining committee rooms, the bargaining tables, the negotiations, I just said that, the bargaining and negotiations is the same thing, the steward bodies, the people who advocate for workers in workplaces, those places all look the same. And they knew that we, other workers, had things to bring to the table. And so I've been very, very fortunate to have those kinds of mentors pull me along, hold me up lots of times. I don't know if you've been watching the news, but you might have seen that a woman was just elected for the first time as the president of a private sector union in this country. It's I and another woman in this room have been working on that for a long, long, long time. And we are very happy. Thank you. So it's been 35 years, like I said, and I haven't looked back because they are proud of me. The ancestors that I walk with every single day are proud of me. Sometimes they're not. And sometimes they let me know that, I don't know about that part, Denise. You might want to rethink that outfit, as the kids say. And I do, and I learn from that. But the only thing I want in life, when they put dirt over me, is to say that she was a good ancestor. And I get that from the ancestors that brought me to this place with all of you today.
Well, I'm so glad you're not a doctor because you're saving more lives in the work you're doing now.
Could I have a glass of water? Maybe some Kleenex. No, that's yours.
Okay. I'll bring one.
Oh, dear. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacey?
Good evening, everyone. It really is a pleasure to be here with all of you. And with how I got here, it's quite interesting. So I am the daughter of immigrant parents. Both my parents immigrated from Jamaica. But my late mother, I have to say, is beyond my inspiration. So she came here through the domestic worker program, which, is still happening, and she had to start off as a living nanny. And she would say, I can't do this for the rest of my life. And I always replay her stories to me because that was my motivation to get the education. As you heard in my bio, I do have some degrees. But when I heard her story, the degrees aren't for me, right? I'm like one of 3 people in my family who do have a master's. I have an older sister who got her PhD. But getting there is to inspire other people from our community. Because of systemic racism, because of barriers, it's not that easy. So when she told me her story of working as a domestic nanny, having to sleep in that attic, and then saying that, she thought of being a nurse and was being told she'll never make it as a nurse. She became a nurse, but even as a nurse at the Toronto General, which she spent most of her life, she's one of the SARS nurse, right, who survived what we're going through now with the pandemic. Just the story she told me growing up, that you had, patients who were, not Black, that didn't want her to even touch them because she was a Black woman. So I'm hearing these stories, and that had me thinking about the law. That I didn't know about policy. And so as young as grade 1, sadly, through tragedy, my mom actually had a very bad car accident. And she kept complaining about the lawyers ripping her off. And she didn't even think she's going to get a settlement. I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. And I'm going to help people like my mom and make sure nobody's ripped off. So that seed was planted in me because of an injustice happening to my mom. And so, of course, all I wanted to be was a lawyer. But then at grade 3, I was diagnosed with a learning disability. And while my mom is not only working as a nurse, she's sending for people from Jamaica. I still don't know how she sent for all these people, 2 people every year for the first 10 years of her life with barely any money. And a lot of people lived in the house that we grew up in until they got on their own. So she's one of those people, lift as you climb, give back to others, spread the little that you have. So this is all being planted in me. And I also remember stories of, I don't know how many of you are familiar with barrels and sending it back to your homes, maybe to Europe. I remember my brother and I, they're putting us on top of the barrel to close the barrel, right? So these are things I remember knowing, but you're giving back, you're thinking of those you left behind. So she's planting these seeds of giving back, investing in the community. It's not just about yourself. We're a village, and I'm learning these lessons, but I'm like, I'm going to go to law school. So when I was diagnosed with a learning disability, she started to tutor me. So this is a lady who's a good homemaker, right? I got siblings, my dad, and she's doing what she has to do, and she's working, then she starts tutoring me, then she starts tutoring my cousins, then she starts tutoring kids in the neighborhood. Then she's like, I should start a tutoring business. There's a lot of children in Canada falling through the cracks. And I'm like, maybe I should be a teacher because I'm helping her with the students. And up until she passed away, for the last 20 years of her life, she helped over 200 students of all ethnic backgrounds who were falling through the cracks. Many of them are getting their second degrees, their first degrees, doing very well. So I found myself just tutoring and mentoring, but I'm still thinking, I got to go to law school. I'm not going to go to teacher's college. But I was like, maybe I should go to teacher's college. So the reason I did a double major, I did history and law society because the history side of my education was to prepare for teachers college. And then, the law society was like, okay, if I don't do teachers college, I could do law school. So that was the reason for the double major. And then I was like, I don't know if I could do teaching. And I volunteered at the schools. I worked as a camp counselor. I did everything they say you need to do before teachers college. And I just didn't apply. I was like, I think law is where it is. I applied to law school and I didn't get in. I'm thinking, you gotta be kidding me. I prepared my whole life for this, and I didn't get in. But my mom has a saying, a quitter never wins and a winner never quits. You got to keep moving. But through this journey, I did what's called informational interviews. So every career that I thought of doing, I would interview teachers, I would interview lawyers, I would even interview accountants. I thought of an accountant. I'm like, what is it like to be an accountant? How do I get there? So in this journey, before Google, I went through the yellow pages and called hundreds of lawyers. I was 19. Hi, I'm Stacey. Can I volunteer at your law firm? You're young. You're like, what do you mean? It was just no, and people hanging up on me. I kept going. And then my mom said, try the Caribbean newspapers. So in our culture, we have the Share and the Pride, which is where a lot of the Black lawyers advertise. So I was like, okay, I'll cold call through there. Came across a lady named Margaret Best, who became an elected official. And when I met this lady, I just got good energy about her. She seemed nice and warm, not like what you think a lawyer should be. I was like, she sounds nice though. And then she's like, I don't know if I can take any volunteers. So she turned me down, but I was persistent. I followed up until she said, okay, come in for an interview. Went for the interview. Then she's like, okay, you could do some filing. So I was one of those people would go around and ask people, what do you need? How can I help you? Can I photocopy? Made myself useful. In less than a year, she's like, I got to hire you as my legal assistant. And then I was going to the courts and I'm filing. I'm like, I'm living my dream. I could be a lawyer very soon. I could taste it. So this time I was in college, volunteering with her, went through university, working part-time. And then she runs for office. She wins. I'm not thinking I'm going to go into policy. I'm like, I'm still going to law school. Then I found out there was an opportunity to work at her office. I applied. I got selected. I'm like, okay, now I'm working in politics. This is fun, but I'm still going to law school. I actually left that job to try to go to law school. And when I didn't get in, I end up full circle coming into this world of government and policy and politics. And that's when I realized I should get my master's in public policy because like law, I'm allowed to advocate. I'm able to make a difference. And so after years of working, not just for her, who became the first Black woman to be reelected in the province of Ontario, which is historic, right? And I saw her mentor a lot of her staff, some of whom were elected today, which is great to see. And then I had the opportunity to work for former MP Selena Caesar-Chavez, and that was just a mentorship that I can't even put a price on. Great experience, and to see someone with so much integrity in a place like politics was quite inspiring. So in all of that, I'm like, I should start my own government relations firm because I'm not seeing anybody who looks like me. I'm not seeing any woman, and I need to take everything that I've learned, my passion, and put it into Bstellar Group, which is why I started my own government relations firm. So that's a little bit of how I my plan A didn't work, my plan B didn't work, and I landed into entrepreneurship, and now I'm in the world of technology where I'm the chapter president of Blacks in Technology Foundation. So this is a US-based organization with 64 chapters in 16 countries. I am serving as a volunteer, and our goal is to really get students of multiple disciplines from the Black community to see how they can contribute to the tech ecosystem. It's not just only for STEM professionals. You can be policy like me, you could be a lawyer, you could be an accountant and find your place in the tech ecosystem. So that's another hat that I wear. So that's a little bit of my story, and it really, again, is an honor to be here with all of you.
I'm a little speechless, which never happens. We're so lucky that even though your chosen paths didn't work out, that you're here, and that it's so inspiring to hear your stories. And I'm just honored to know all three of you. So the next question is, what are 2 things that women should stop doing? Denise.
Of course. Of course. This question is quite deep, and we don't ask it enough. Organizationally, individually, collectively, we don't ask the question enough. And so there were a couple of things. The first thing we should stop doing is the same thing we've been doing, because it's not working. It's not working. Stacey, I'm going to knock bureaucracy for a minute and government.
Go for it.
Because it's not working. Maintaining the same bureaucracies that have been created from a system that is rooted in white supremacy and patriarchy, and us collectively continuing to replicate that system means that we're just replicating the same bad stuff. And I'm not sure how we can't get ourselves out of that and realize is not working. It's working for a small percentage of the population, don't get me wrong. It's working for them just fine. They don't have uteruses. They don't have uteruses. Which is why this country doesn't have universal child care. It's why, and I understand you had a discussion on abortion earlier today, there are 6 provinces and territories in this country where there are 0 abortion clinics, which probably means there are also 0 reproductive clinics, or clinics where women can get exclusive medical care around reproduction. In Canada, we're a G7 country. We hold ourselves up as the best of the best. Listen, we are the best of the best. I'll never say anything different outside of this room, because we are, and I've been around the world, we are the best of the best. But we have a right to expect better. Women are 52% of the population on this planet, and we're 53% of the population in this country. We are not 53% of the population anywhere else. Certainly not in government, certainly not in industry, certainly not in business, certainly not in workplaces. Oh, wait, I'm wrong about that. We are more than 52% of the population in healthcare and education. Right. The two of the least respected professions in this country. We have to stop doing things the same way that we have been doing them for the past couple of years. If you try to put a square peg in a round hole, that is not going to work. And so when women enter the room, whatever the room happens to be, is it for a job interview? Is it for an interview to sit on a board? Is it whatever it happens to be? And that woman doesn't fit, for whatever reason, the expectations of the organization. When we expect her to now all of a sudden conform to whatever that organization is, or whatever those expectations are, we are doing a disservice, not only to her as an individual, as a professional, as a person who comes with whatever she's coming with, but we're doing a disservice to our own organizations, because we've asked somebody to come. DEI, right? Anybody heard of DEI? It's a whole industry now. Some of us are really, really good at it. Some of us are really, really not. But I understand that organizations are looking for DEI professionals. If you say to that person, come and work for us, but you don't listen to what they have to say when they tell you these are the changes that you need to make, you are asking a square peg to fit into a round hole. And what you're demanding of that person to keep their job is that they shave off the corners of that square peg and leave those shavings at the door so that they can come in and make you look good. Most of the people who do DEI work are not white. You're asking for your organization to have a little bit of melanin sprinkled in so that it looks good when somebody looks at the webpage. It's 2022. Those days, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that anymore. When we continue to require that people lie to you in order to keep their job, you're going to continue replicating the same old. And nobody needs that. We're not interested in that. I have a friend who will not do any work for any organization unless they are serious in transforming the organization. And they have to prove that they're serious before she will even consider taking on a job. That's quite innovative. It's quite revolutionary. I'm thinking about doing the same. Because it's a long time colonialism and white supremacy and patriarchy have been poisoning our lives. It's a long time. I'd like to, before they put dirt on me, say that, we made some progress. And make no mistake, I don't consider the last 2 years to be progress. I consider the last 2 years to have been an awakening for many. I don't consider it to be progress. I still look, before I enter into a contract with any organization, I look at their website, I look at the About Us and who works here. Sometimes it doesn't look good. There was one company who wanted to present us with some legislative human rights education that was majority male. And not men who use wheelchairs to get around, or men who, clearly say in their profile that they're gay. It wasn't that. It was, just straight white guys running this human rights firm and thought that that was okay and that I was going to give them my money in order to use them, not thinking that they might, even if you just do it for looks, right? Add the melanin, get some good melanin, get a really strong person to help you make those transformations, and those transformations will come. But do not try to fit a square peg in a round hole. Do you want me to talk about the second thing that we should start doing, Danny?
Sure.
They do.
We have to understand that the reason Hockey Canada is testifying before the House of Commons right now is because they have been maintaining the same system. That's not new. Those things are not new that took place at Hockey Canada. The RCMP might have heard they're in a little bit of trouble. Putting a woman at the front of the RCMP, at the head of the RCMP, and expecting her to change the entire organization without changing another thing. Here we go, right? So they put some ovaries at the top this time and thought that was going to change what the RCMP was going to be like. I have great sympathy for Minister Anita Anand. If I were her, I would have gone in with a cudgel and said, you're all fired. Start looking for work, every one of you. Every time she puts another man in charge, there's another, he's accused of sexual assault. What is this? My friend looked at me, I heard some French being spoken in the room. My friend looked at me the other day and said, ben, ça c'est la fin du monde. I mean, this is the end of the world. This cannot get, is this not going to get any better? Every single time. But they are in those positions because they did not make any, you would have thought after Harvey Weinstein was arrested, that men would have started to look around the room and said, I think we better make some changes. Am I right, sister? And we didn't, right? They didn't look around the room and make some changes. Make some fundamental changes. If people have to be fired, they got to go. Let them go explain to their partner why they got fired from work for grabbing somebody's butt. I haven't cussed yet, Danny. I think I should be commended for that. The continued news cycles that we see, and people are shocked and they know, oh, and how did this happen? It happened because we have let a patriarchal system where women are not valued continue. And women aren't immune from that. This is the thing that I think upsets me the most, is when women participate in that patriarchal system and uphold that patriarchal system that devalues women, that harms women, that allows women to go home from work dejected every single day, or that allows women to think that they're not powerful and they're not smart enough and they're not good enough. And we continue to hold that up. I guarantee you, that the minute a woman puts up her hand and says, you know what, that's not cool, even if there's only one other woman in the room, that woman's going to say, I agree with her. That's not cool. That's not cool. Or somebody's going to say, that's not cool. And I would hope in 2022 that there are progressive men that would also say, yeah, brother, that's not cool. I'm not looking at you. But you're right in my line of sight with your beautiful socks and your beautiful tie. We need men with us to do this work. There is nothing better than seeing men with us saying, we believe feminism is important, we believe women's rights are important, we believe that we need universal childcare in this country. There's nothing better than seeing non-Indigenous people saying to the government, you know what? Not having clean water in this country is not acceptable anymore. There is nothing better for us than when we see other people saying what we've been saying for far too long. I'm going to stop talking. Thank you, George.
Stacey, what should we stop doing?
Oh, I love everything that Denise said. I'm just like, yes, 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 yes. I would say stop being silent. Understand that there's power in no, because as women, we say yes to everything. We put ourselves last, even our own health, and it's costing us, which isn't good. So don't run on empty, right? And when I say stop being silent, like if you see something wrong, don't compromise your values to maintain the status quo that Denise is describing. Because the biggest fear that people have, I don't want to lose my job, I don't want to rock the boat. We have to at some point think about the generation we're in and what do we want to leave behind? What do you want your legacy to be, or what do you want to leave behind, and then future generations? And if we keep doing the same thing the same way, we're going to get the same results. So I think it's really, really critical to understand there's power in saying no. It shows that you know your value. It shows that you know who you are. You respect who you are. I always believe in building your own table. So if we don't like the system the way it is, then let's create our own system and be more communal and collaborate and understand that there's power in that. Because if we walk away from certain things, it really doesn't work, right? And so knowing that we have power is important and knowing how to use it. Another thing I would say, to stop setting the elevator back down empty. So I remember I was at this networking event. It was a C-suite. She was a woman. And she's like, oh, when you get to the top, send the elevator back down. And I'm like, how are you going to send down an empty elevator? You're going to send it to someone like me, who's a woman of color, who has a lot of barriers to face. I'm not going to know what floor to go to get to these private boards and these meetings in order to advance my career. So I always believe you do have to lift as you climb. How many people are you mentoring right now? How many people are you taking to the top? What is our succession plan, especially for those of you in the leadership position, to make sure you bring those who are not at the table, who don't look like you, and how are you amplifying their voices when something is said, even about my hair? I get comments about my hair all the time. Oh, can I touch your hair? Why is your hair like that? Somebody needs to say, that's not appropriate, right? Don't say that. And other people say exactly. And then we kind of shift the culture with what happens in these C-suite positions, what I see in government. And I have stories beyond days of what I've seen in government, which is like a nightmare. But we have to speak up. And I was very fortunate to work for somebody who spoke up and would tweet and would put it out there so that the public discourse would change and be like, oh, we didn't know that there was racism on the Hill. We just didn't know, right? Because a lot of people don't want to say anything. They want to just stay elected to stay elected. They're not thinking about the fact that when they're representing a constituent, it's not their seat, it's for the constituents. So we need to elect more people that understand this is a borrowed job. If you're an elected official, you have to be there for the people. You can't get comfortable. Like, we don't have the luxury of getting comfortable. We want to go in and do the right thing all the time. So those are some insights that I would share.
Amazing. So, Aditi, who is lifting as she climbed and brought two young mentees with her. Welcome, ladies. Aditi, what are we going to stop doing?
So when I first read this question, I definitely had a hard time trying to think of advice that can apply to so many diverse and unique individuals. So I thought I would come and share things that I am living in currently, that I'm experiencing in my life, things that I want to stop doing. So I want to stop living life and living life so seriously, taking it so seriously. The work that we're all here to do today is heavy. It's not easy to carry this out. It's not easy to live in it. As you saw before, it's not easy for me to be here and to share my lived experience and to share my journey with you all. So there's no way to come out of this type of world, to come out of all of the things that these two ladies here have shared, and the struggles with taking life too seriously. We really do have to live our lives from a place of joy. Not happiness, but joy. I'm currently reading a book called The Lightmaker's Manifesto, and it's about change making from a place of joy, something that's just so deep within you, something that you feel so much energy from, something that you can't ignore. It's an inner flame that doesn't get put out with a swipe of emotions or a situation. So we really do need to stop taking things too seriously. Of course, there are times when you have to be serious, but really try to lead the change that you are doing from a place of joy. The second thing I had on mind It's slipping my mind right now, actually. Sorry about that.
That's okay. It's interesting to me where you say, I don't have anything, but you started an organization because your school said to you, no, you don't need gender equity.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just like they said, you didn't take no, but
No.
it's just sort of part of your makeup, right? So, what would you start doing?
What would I start doing? Well, as these two were speaking, I'm really thinking about the term radical accountability. We talk about not trying to minimize ourselves or to code switch. I'm not sure if people here are familiar with that term, but it really is about making yourself fit in with other people, changing who you are, and this is really hitting home close to me today because of just stuff that's happening in my community, and if you're from London, you know what's going on. So I really would say that we need to start being radically accountable, all of us, not just the people here in this room, but the people in my community, the people that I'm living with, experiences I'm living with. We need to be radically accountable. We need to first start from within and dig deeper and be completely honest with ourselves, because how can we expect other people to be accountable in any type of situation if we aren't fully accountable with ourselves? And it's very, very easy to just skip that over and to say, I'm going to hold other people accountable, but I'm not going to look internally and accept the fact that, hey, maybe I did make mistakes. Maybe I'm not where I should be. Maybe I'm doing this learning, but am I just doing it because it's expected, because that's the status quo, or am I doing it because I have to? Or am I doing it because of this energy that's so deep inside of me, I can't ignore it? That's where it should be coming from. And if you don't have that energy, you need to go out and find it. Radical accountability is about a place. It's coming from a place of fire, a burning inside of you. It can't be a surface level, no reflection type of accountability that has happened before.
Stacey, I'll make you go after her this time. What are you going to start doing?
What am I going to start doing? I've been starting to say no, because I'm one of those people, I do say yes. I have been saying yes a lot. So not taking on too much.
Thanks for saying yes tonight.
Right, of course. Right, not running on empty, because it's really important to, practice what you preach. So like if I'm, Malou is here, I have to shout her out. She's one of my mentees, right? So it's like I have to realize that I have to practice what I'm saying to people that I mentor, right? I have to live by example. I have to not compromise who I am for success and opportunity. And the only time you know if you could do that is if you're tested, right? Have you said no to something that, that'd be a good paycheck, but does it align with your values, right? And I have been tested and said no to things, right? And I think the more you do that, when you are trying to mentor or, get into leadership, people can see there's a track record, there's evidence of you doing that. So I think being able to commit to that and being able to say no, being clear on who you are, and also the self-reflecting is really important, so we can make those adjustments, we can look inside ourselves and really see where we're going wrong. Holding ourselves accountable is how we can transform leadership and even be better leaders in these type of spaces where it's hard to see good leaders nowadays, right? Because people are just too compromising. They just say yes to everything, right? There's no real principle or values that they're rooted in. So I think it's really important that, we get to that place, and I'm a work in progress. I'm doing my best to get to that place as well.
Denise?
So I am not 20 anymore, and I had to make a list. I had to write some things down because, at 2:30 in the morning, lots of things happen and your brain starts going, and then you have to write things down. And I thought of this really cool idea, and then I realized, this would be a really cool thing to say on Saturday. So look around and model new, interesting, and innovative ways of doing things. And when I mean new, interesting, and innovative, I mean like really new, almost radical ways of doing things. I was talking to this friend of mine, and we were talking about a job posting. I was helping him to write a job posting. And it was for an accountant's position. So pretty, I guess mundane, I don't know. Accountants are the lifeblood of this country. And don't let anybody tell you differently.
We need accountants.
All right, then I'd like your approval on this job posting. We want language that says that they have a strong demonstrated commitment to human rights, reconciliation, and participating in the implementation of the calls to action in our firm. Instead of the standard cover letter, we're going to ask applicants to write a short essay on the connection between accounting and human rights, or an essay on some ideas that they may have had on how they might help us develop a plan on reconciliation, and then how they would participate as an accountant in that company. Right? That's how you get the people in your organization. You like that? Does that have your stamp of approval? If I see another job posting that says 5 years of whatever degree from whatever university and 20 years of experience in the blah, 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 and, whatever other boring thing, I'm going to lose my mind. I call it the Ben and Jerry's model of job postings because I'm pretty sure that I saw a posting at Ben and Jerry's that said, if you don't like ice cream, don't apply for this job. And I thought that was really interesting because it's a lot deep. I mean, it's hilarious, but it's a lot deeper than just if you don't like ice cream, right? Ice cream is the thing that they do. And then they do a whole bunch of other really cool things. So what they were saying is, if you don't like what we do, don't even think about coming to work in this company, because we're going to do this thing and we're going to do it well, and we're going to do it, from the very tippy toes of our toes to the top of our head. And so where this person and I were looking at this, creating this job posting, the thing that is on the top of the mind of this organization is reconciliation and implementing the 94 calls to action. And if every single person that they hire doesn't know what those 94 calls to action are, they probably shouldn't bother applying to work there. And so when you figure out what it is you want in your organization, be creative, look around. There's a guy named Dan who I would go work for in an instant if I could go live in Seattle, who you must have heard of him. He pays every single worker in his organization $70,000, and he took a cut in his pay. They don't lose anybody, they gain people, people are happy. It appears to be a wonderful place to work. It's a perfect place for accountants because they do stuff with money. I don't know what they do. I honestly don't know what they do, but I look on their website all the time to see if they're looking for somebody who does what I do, because that's the kind of place where I would want to go and work and where I feel like I would be a square peg. So do you remember that toy? I don't know if it was Fisher-Price or Tupperware, but it was a ball. It was red and blue and it had the different shapes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Be the organization, be the company, be the place that you have power that accepts all those different shapes. Because when you put those shapes together on that ball, it makes a really cool toy that our kids love to play with. And it is valuable, and nobody wants a plain old bowl of vanilla ice cream. I used to put real maple syrup and protein powder, believe it or not, on my ice cream. That's the only way I can eat vanilla ice cream. Vanilla in your organization, nobody wants that. And believe me, your customers don't want it either. Your constituents don't want it either. The people that you're serving don't want it either. When I travel in this country, and I travel a lot to a lot of places, I want to see in those workplaces that there are a variety of people working there. I want to see that the hotel I'm staying in is fully accessible. And not fully accessible does not just mean they have a little blue sign with a wheelchair or a button. That does not mean what That is not what full accessibility means. I want to see those things in all of those organizations. And I think, and maybe it's a pipe dream, but I'm going to keep living on that hope, that lots of Canadians want that. Canadians want to see workplaces, organizations, volunteer organizations, corporations, where people are welcome for everything that they bring. Everything. Everything that they are, everything that they bring is valuable. I taught my niece, who's now 10, to sign when she was little. So we could communicate before she started speaking. So we signed together. And we went to a restaurant for her second birthday where they only communicate using sign language. And it was fabulous. It's called Signs. It's at Young and College, Church and College, I think. It's a fabulous restaurant. And she was so proud of herself that she got to practice. She turned 10 2 days ago, and she still remembers that. And she says, "Matin, can we go back to that restaurant?" Absolutely, we can go back to that restaurant. I am participating in raising a child who will not think that people who communicate using sign language are any different. And she will make an effort to communicate with them. And if that's the only thing I do before they put dirt on me, I'll be okay, sort of, with that, because I think there's lots more that I should be doing. The last thing I'm going to say, it must be time by now, right? Yeah. The last thing I'm going to say are the words of Rupi Kaur, who is a brilliant, prolific, and world-renowned Canadian poet, a young woman who is uber talented. And her poem is titled "Lift Them." And it says, "If you have never stood with the oppressed, there is still time. There is still time." Rupi Kaur is a good way to end.
So, first of all, thank you. Thank you for, giving us of your time and your stories and your hearts. And I want you to know that this is a worthwhile group of folks to share your stories with, that we will advocate. We were listening, we felt it, and we're going to take your words and do the work. So thank you.
Whew. I didn't know you were an accountant sitting. Radical accountability.
Thank you.
And a lawyer. Oh. Thank you, Denise. Thank you. Okay, so do I have your stamp of approval for that job posting? Okay, cool. All right, good. All right, cool.
That's it. We're yes.
I am going to add my thanks, and Aditi, I am going to tell you that there's a special zone that seems to extend right around here. You are not the first person to cry being up here, and I am going to thank you all for being vulnerable, because I think that women do not realize that their strength lies in being vulnerable to each other, and we don't do it enough, so thank you for your stories. Okay. Okay.